Hey, what's up everybody, this is Muth24, and this is part 2 of my review of the Master Grade Banshee. I'm actually going to start off here by doing the accessories of the kit, because there aren't that many that go with it. But you do get 2 standard pink beam sabers, and much like the unicorn, you can either put them in the handles in his hand, or you can pop them into the wrist piece there, so they can kind of, come around that way, and it will bump up against the sort of claw piece there, so it's not going to, flip around quite as well as with the unicorn. But you can still have it do sort of that little pose there. You also get a little pilot figure, and then you do get an extra sheet, or extra tree rather, of gold, or yellow gold pieces for the horn. And it's much like with the unicorn, where you have the single horn piece and the open horn piece, and then you also get a gold faceplate. And I don't know if that was like from the OVA version, or if it's just there in case you want a different gold faceplate. I think it looked kind of cool, but I wanted to do the black faceplate like I have in the anime. The thing that is nice about this horn, though, as opposed to the unicorn horn, you can kind of see that it does splay out a little bit towards the top, just because the plastic is thinner, and the fact that it's got that little hinge there does sort of spread it out. But there is a piece here on the front, that little headpiece, that keeps it in place better than the unicorn's horn does. So I do find that while this horn piece isn't perfect when you do the one with the joint, it's better than the unicorn's. Now, as you may have noticed, I did go ahead and put some of the decals and stickers on this kit, actually most of them, since I did the first part. And I think they go actually quite a ways for making this kit look a little bit more detailed, mechanical and all that, especially the Anaheim Electronics and the RX-0 Unicorn Banshee stickers there on the shoulders, but even the ones along the sort of the wrists and the arms here for the different weapons, I think look really nice, and sort of the lines along the backpack and all that. I think they do quite a bit for this kit, more than I was expecting them to, and I think it's because of the sort of dark backdrop they're set against here on the plastic. As far as the transformation, though, it's basically the same as you have with the unicorn. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pull the torso pieces outward, and you're going to have to get in there to flip up the little nodes there, and it's sometimes easier to just do it with the backs of the beam sabers. And when you go to transform this thing, they actually do recommend in the instruction manual, just like with the unicorn, that it might just be easier to dismantle the different pieces and then put it back together. So that's what I'm going to do for the sake of the review here. But you do have a little hinge here that allows for the torso to kind of lock into place, and you'll pop that up, and then when you pull the sides out and flip everything up, those little vents will pop open. As for the skirt armor, the front skirts here, you're just going to pull up and out, and it'll go flush against the skirt like that. The side skirts, you can just pull down, easy enough. The back skirts, you'll just flip up like that and have the little thruster pop out. And then for the little front piece here on the crotch, you'll flip that piece down and pull that piece up. For the legs, you're going to pop this bit open and then pull down and close it back up. You'll take the back of the leg here and pull down, which will force the kneecap piece, if you will, out. And when the knee piece is all set in the socket there, it should look like that. Then for the lower part of the legs, you're going to pop this little gray tab up on either side and just pull down, clamp them back in. And then for the feet, you're going to pull down on the toes and pop the back heel up there. You're going to pop this little piece up there, and then you are going to rotate this around and flip this piece up. You can also pop this back piece out and spread the legs to the sides a little bit to give it some better stances and poseability there. For the shoulder armor, you're going to pull up on this piece and sort of wiggle this out and up, which should result in the armor looking like this for the shoulder. I do have a problem with this piece on the top popping off because the connection's just so loose, and the same thing happened on my Unicorn Gundam. As for the arms, you're basically going to have the same sort of thing as you did on the Unicorn, where you pull out a little bit, and then if you can get at the wrist, you're supposed to pull it down, but it's a little tricky to get at the wrist armor because It's obviously covered up by this big claw hand, and it's not going to be a huge difference if you don't pull it out, but it's just a little bit of cycle frame underneath there. As for the claw hand, you're going to pull those up and out, and you're going to bend these outward, and it definitely looks really nice considering that, you know, it just kind of folds up there. The one gripe I do have is that these top pieces have very limited poseability. Like, they can go up and down, which is really cool, but they can't go out to the side, so you can't have it splayed too far without them just popping out of place. As for the other arm, you're just going to flip the smart cannon down over the hand there and pull those bits out to show off the cycle frame there as well. The head is slightly different from the unicorn because you're going to have to pop this gold front piece off to spread the horn, but then from there it's pretty much the same thing. You're just going to pop the sides of the head off and reattach them after you've rotated them around, and then you are going to lift the faceplate up, flip the unicorn face back in there, spread the horn, which will bring the Gundam face forward, and then reattach everything as such. Finally, the backpack is really simple. You're just going to rotate the beam sabers up and around, and then flip the vents out on either side. And because of the way that the cycle frame is molded underneath there, it just kind of shows off as you're popping it out, but it's not nearly as prominent as it is displayed on the rest of the mobile suit. So with everything put together, all the pieces extended and the cycle frame exposed, the Banshee looks big and mean and really cool. I love the way that these colors kind of play off each other. Even though that yellow gold isn't as nice as like a true gold that you'd have with the Hyakushiki or something, I think it looks good with the sort of orangish yellow of the cycle frame there. And next to the unicorn, the two of them have, I think, a really cool sort of color palette pattern there that plays off one another really nice. And I also like the way that the Banshee's extra weapons there look on it next to the unicorn. Like, it's not incredibly bulked up and it doesn't look too much bigger, but there's definitely something to be said about the way that it makes it look sort of more angular and more intimidating than the unicorn with its more traditional weapon set. And since the destroy mode is deployed here, I figured I'd do a couple more arbitrary little size comparisons. The RX-78-2 looks quite small compared to the Banshee, and even the Turn A has a little bit of a height disadvantage there next to him. As far as the posability goes, you can get the head to go up about that far, down about that far. Can only rotate a little bit because the head will hit the collar there. Get the arms to rotate 360 no problem, and I do like the way that these connections are really tight on this kit. Even on the unicorn, they were pretty well done. The elbow can bend a little past 90, not much further. The hand does have the typical trigger finger, thumb, three-finger split, but it's not much use here because you've got these big weapons in the way on either hand. Like, it's completely covered up on the smart cannon hand there. But as I mentioned, you do have two joints here on each of these little claws, and then a ball joint and a hinge here on the bigger claws. I would like it to be able to display out a little bit more there, but oh well. Not much I can do about that. The torso can rock back and forth when you have that little latch unhinged, and you can get it to rotate 360 pretty much no problem. I mean, it'll kind of bump up against the little back piece here, but not enough that it's going to pop it out of place or anything. The front skirts can go around a little bit like that. Side skirts can wiggle around just fine. The back skirts can wiggle. The legs can go up about that far, and they do kind of go outwards just because of the way the skirt armor is designed. They will go back quite a bit further than you might expect. They will go out to the side and up quite a ways, actually. There's not much point to it because you can't really get the feet to adjust to that, but if you want to do them like a super space kick sort of thing, you could do that. And then you can also rotate here at the top of the leg. You can get the knees to bend only so far, and then the ankles will allow to wiggle around a little bit, assuming you don't knock any of those little pieces off, and you can rock it back and forth as well. So at the end of the day, I think the one thing you should keep in mind is that this kit is not going to be terribly surprising for anyone who has built the Master Grade Unicorn or any of its variants. You pretty much get the same sort of poseability, the same sort of build. Very much a similar kit here. Now that said, if you don't mind the fact that the poseability is somewhat limited, and the fact that this is just a really big sort of display piece, I think you'll enjoy it. It's got a lot of cool presentation factors here in terms of the color, in terms of the aesthetic appeal. The decals do quite a bit for it, and the weapons look really cool. And sure, maybe you're not going to get the same sort of mileage out of the beam sabers, or the shield, which technically isn't part of this kit, but you can still build it if you want to. But the fact that you have something just so unique to this kit, not just the color pattern, obviously, like I mentioned before, there's only so many like black Gundams in the entire franchise, but the fact that you have such interesting weapons here molded right onto the kit, I think is really cool. And it's very rare that we have something like that where a Gundam doesn't come with sort of the typical run-of-the-mill, sword, rifle, beam saber, maybe a Gundam hammer or two, but you sort of have the same routine of Gundam kits with the regards to the weapons that they have. And so this is sort of a breath of fresh air in terms of its overall design. Now that said, I can see where the price point might be a little bit of a deterrent for some people, because this is basically the same cost as you have for the Unicorn itself. And the fact that they're so similar in their build, if you build them like back to back, it might be a little boring. I built the Unicorn a long time ago, so it was quite a while since I built it, and I wasn't opposed at all to sort of revisiting that build. But overall, my impressions of the Banshee are quite positive, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I just like the design overall. I enjoyed the build, and for being such a big mobile suit, yes, its poseability is limited, but it's not absolutely terrible for the size of kit that it is. So I quite recommend this if you're a fan of the Banshee or you're a fan of Unicorn Gundam. But that's pretty much it for this review, and with that, I will see you guys next time.